Hello YouTube, it is Atticus and welcome. I have a really cool two-part game for you guys. So yeah, this is game one of, I'm going to feature two games against Luca. He goes by a different name on actual Steam, but he is Luca on YouTube. So we played two games. One was a Dark Elf versus High Elf, and one was a Norska versus Empire. So this is the first game, and both of them were so close, I just had to show them. They were really cool. He's a really skilled opponent. So let's jump into builds, guys. For my Lord, going against a High Elf main, I figured you got to go the old reliable. You got to go the safest bet. A Beast Sorceress, Beast Supreme Sorceress. So yeah, all I'm taking is the Manticore Summon, and that's just to harass his back line and to shut down chariots. You can see I have no other spells besides the Black Horror, which is her bound spell. So hopefully I'll be able to line up some good spearmen, lines and do some damage. For my for Infantry Corps, I have some Bleak Swords, guys. So yeah, the reason I take Bleak Swords is these guys will beat the High Elf Spearsmen one-on-one. Yeah, these guys are made to deal with spearmen, not sword masters, but Empire spearmen and sword troops and things like that. Like, they just have a little bit better combat stats, but you sacrifice your anti-large for it. So it's a little bit of a gamble. Also, the Blades of the Blood Queen running with a Death Hag. So yeah, they're going to be given the Guardian trait, so that 15% ward save to the Death Hag. And there's a really good synergy between between the both of them, because she has that ability which will enrage them and cause them to do more damage. So yeah, I feel like you have to have one dedicated anti-large unit, or excuse me, armor-piercing unit in this matchup, just in case he brings Sword Masters or White Lions or something like that. So this pocket right here is going to be very dangerous, and it's going to be hard for the High Elves to deal with. Now, what you do in this situation if you're fighting against that, if I was playing the High Elves, is I'd try to avoid that. I'd use my mobility, I would use my Dragon Princes, and just kind of, take out the units that are away from this little scary center pocket. And that's kind of what my opponent does here. Also, guys, we have the Bolt Fiends. So yeah, we're trying the Bolt Fiends. I figured my opponent would bring Dragon Princes or something like that. So these guys have Shield Breakers. So yeah, they do 20 something. I don't know if I'll let me show you. It's like 24% missile resistance they drop, and Dragon Princes have 32, so they're going to have about maybe like 5 or 6 missile resistance instead of like the 30, so I'll take it. Pretty much going to be guaranteed damage every time they hit them. For my Cavalry, guys, you can see I have a Dark Rider right here. These are just the cheap ones without shields, screening out for a Cold One. So yeah, these guys are just going to be taking the initial charge of the Dragon Princes, especially the Fireborn, because yeah, if the Dragon Princes get their charge bonus off one of these Cold One Knights, they're going to lose really quickly. But if these guys soak up the charge, well then yeah, these guys will be able to fight a lot longer and harder. Also, we have a Cold One Chariot. You guys know how much I love this unit. It's going to be armor-piercing range. It's going to be really good up close. You can see it has some really good armor-piercing damage, 44 weapon strength. And over here, guys, we have another Cold One Knight and a Dark Rider repeater crossbow. So these guys are going to be super important for dealing with his Cavalry. That's the biggest threat in the High Elf matchup, is their Dragon Princes and things like that. Also, in Deep Vanguard, we have 2 Harpies. I always bring them in this matchup because, and I'm really glad I did, because look what my opponent brought. This is the Avalorn. So if I didn't have an answer for these two ladies right here, they would freaking absolutely just wreck my line. I'd have no answer. My Hargonef Executioners would get, melted. Everything would just fall apart. So you could either use the Manticore to shut these down, or you could use these Harpies. So that's my build, guys. Pretty competitive, standard build, what I would bring, if I was in a tournament or going really competitive against a skilled opponent. I feel like it covers all the bases in this matchup. So for Luca here, his build, which is also really competitive, he brought Teclis. So let's look what spells he has. So the Net, Feeling Foe, and Regrowth. So yeah, pretty powerful loadout. He's going to have little versatility with what spells he wants to cast. He's going pretty cheap on his infantry, guys. He only has 4 spearmen. So yeah, when you try to go Dragon Princes and try to go Phoenixes, you have to go kind of skimpy on your infantry corps, which means it's going to be a lot more micro intensive for him. He has to really make up the difference by getting his cycle charges, and he does. You'll see in this game his cycle charges are on point. Also, we have 2 chariots right here. So yeah, these guys are going to be a really big bane to my army, especially since I don't have that much anti-large. The few anti-large I do have are going to be busy dealing with these Dragon Princes, which means I want to have to use my Manticores and my Lord to try to protect my my foot troops. So yeah, we got 2 of them. We have the 2 Sisters of Avalorn. We have a Frostheart Phoenix, which is a really cool pick. It's going to have the armor-piercing debuff, the speed debuff, and yeah, this thing's just really powerful. Magic damage to get through physical resist, and then, of course, 1 unit of Dragon Princes and the Fireborn, guys. So let's go ahead and start the match. And yeah, see how this goes. So right off the bat, as the white van sets to the driveway that's sitting across my window, I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, I'm just trying to get a little ranged armor-piercing damage onto these Fireborn. I'm going to pull them away last second. They're going to get netted, but luckily these Dark Riders are going to come in and take the charge. And you can see it's going to spare these guys from taking any damage. And it's going to allow my Cold One Knights to come in there. And now we're just going to have a really big mosh pit. You can see that my armies are getting ready to collide. I'm going to get a few chariots into my infantry, but they're not taking that much damage. It's okay. You can see that I'm trying to slow it down because there's a lot going on here. I had these two troops out of position, so I'm going to have to rush them over here. I need to win this infantry pocket. And you can see I'm using my Bolt Fiends to try to get a couple damage onto these chariots as well as summoning a Manticore, which is going to be my answer to the chariots. All across the lines right here, you can see the Bleak Swords are going to start colliding, same with the Death Hag and the Harganeth Executioners, and we're going to be able to melt through these Spearmen pretty quickly. You can see the Harpies in the back are flying the long distance. We need to shut these ladies down before they have a chance to shoot, which we will. So this little pocket right here with the Cold One Knights, they are going to get an enfeebling foe, which is really unfortunate. It's going to have those guys getting melted pretty quickly, especially with the Overwatch of the Sisters, but we're just buying time for my other units. You can see the Bolt Fiends and the repeating crossbows are doing a little bit of damage to these chariots, and yeah, I'm having to prioritize. Do I want to deal with the Frostart Phoenix and the Dragon Princes, or do I want to deal with these chariots? You can see I do get a Black Horror off, which is going to just instantly break all these Spearman units, so yeah, look at that damage. Really good for me. You can see that I'm just going to send my Death Hag and my Harganeth Executioners to the next Spearman unit and just try to shut them down. You can see that I'm taking a lot of damage from these chariots. I'm using my Lord to try to screen, and I'm trying to separate my rage units. And we have a really big mosh pit of units right here. You can see the Manticore is fighting amongst them. I figured with his terror, it might be able to terror out those guys, but more importantly, we're keeping them in place, which is allowing my range units to come in at their Overwatch. And remember, they have shield breakers, so they're pretty much getting a guaranteed damage. You can see my opponent is getting a regrowth off. What did he cast it on? On the Fireborn. So he's trying to keep those guys up. But yeah, he might be winning this little pocket here. But we're doing guaranteed damage with my range units, and we're definitely winning the infantry fight. You can see right here, let's go ahead and speed it back up, guys. So yeah, we've pretty much dealt with all his spearmen, where my Murderous Prowess is going to be able to proc, and you can see I'm shutting down both his Sisters of Avalorn, so that's a lot of money that he's losing to this fight. Second Manticore is going to come into play, and that's going to really help me with his chariots that are really doing a lot of cycle charging. And you can see we've really beat up his Fireborn and his Dragon Princes. They're getting, really, really hammered. You can see the Manticore is going to come in here. It's going to be able to do some damage. It's going to block up those guys' charges, and we're going to deal with the last Spearman unit, which is going to allow me to get my Infantry Corps kind of grouped together and hopefully be able to deal with the remaining of his units. You can see these Harpies are just chasing off these Sisters of Avalorn. I'm using my Sorceress to try to keep these ladies from shooting me, and the last Spearman unit is going to fall. You can see I did use the Fury of Cain on my Swordmasters, which was just making these guys a little bit more powerful, on my Bleak Swords, but now we're going to collide onto these Dragon Princes, and pretty much perfect timing, because now they're free to do some damage. You can see over here that my Bolt Fiends are kind of exposed. They're taking a little bit of damage, but look how beat up his Dragon Princes are. They're getting absolutely just shredded by these repeater crossbows. And you can see the Blades of the Blood Queen are going to be able to chase off these chariots, and we have a pretty powerful core right here. Balance of power is really strongly in my favor, guys, and you can see I'm just trying to collide right here. Unfortunately, my Bolt Fiends have been kind of broken, but they will return. And the real big threat to my opponent is this Death Hag. At full health, you can see it's just kind of staying with the troops right here, and now we're in a situation where we just have to get pretty much just grouped up, because he's going to have full cycle charging capabilities really on me. You can see I do have some Bleak Swords that I sent to just chase away the Sisters of Avalorn. Same with the Harpies. We've pretty much neutralized this threat. Once these are completely removed from the battle, we're just going to group up right here and try to deal with the remaining Cavalry of the High Elves. You can see my chariots have rampaged. The Frostart Phoenix is slowing them, but yeah, pretty much any damage we do right now is just going to keep us ahead. You can see that I'm going to get I believe it's a net onto my Dark Riders repeater crossbows, which is really unfortunate. They're going to get a nice charge, and my opponent's going to get a nice charge. It's pretty much going to take those guys out of commission, but we still have the Bolt Fiends. So yeah, anywhere he goes, he's taking a lot of damage. You can see my troops right here are going to have to take this charge right to the face. There's nothing I can really do about it, but every time he comes in, he's taking damage as well. So it's just a matter of numbers. I have more numbers. I mean, if he wants to do that trade, I'll take it. Unfortunately, I do have some troops kind of spread out, but yeah, I had to make sure I shut down the Sisters. You can see my Supreme Sorceress and these Bleak Swords are coming into the battle, and we are going to be able to shut down one of these chariots. So it's really just coming down to these last few Dragon Princes. You can see that my Bolt Fiends, unfortunately, are going to get targeted by the Frostheart Phoenix. I'm sending all my troops to try to reinforce them. You can see I'm going to get another Fury of Cain onto these Bleak Swords, which is going to cause them to rampage. And yeah, you can see my opponent is going to pull away wisely, knowing that he would probably lose that fight. He's trying to be very conservative with his troops. And yeah, Sisters of Avalorn right here are pretty much wiped out. You can see I'm using the Harpies to escort that one off the map. These ones right here will shut them down. And I have another unit of Bleak Swords that are going to come back and try to reinforce it. You see my Supreme Sorceress is going to get a little recharge into these Spearmen. She's protected by the Death Hag, so I'm saying, okay. And in this situation, guys, when your opponent's, being kind of skirmishy, what you have to do is stay grouped together. Don't get separated, because then he's just going to pick you apart. So just kind of stay grouped together. Stay in a ball. It's going to force him, no matter what he does. See, he's going to come in for a charge right here. But you're going to be able to return some of the damage. He's not going to be able to come straight through. You can see that we're at least doing a little bit of damage. Now, he does kind of pull away to the right on that one. So that was a little bit better of a charge. But still, we're just staying grouped up. You can see my Supreme Sorceress is going to hit him on the back. We're just chipping away at him. Now, unfortunately, my opponent has some Spearman units here that are trying to come back from routing. But yeah, guys, it's looking really good for us. You can see the Swordmasters are going to take the charge of these guys. I keep calling them the Swordmasters. They're the Hargonef Executioners. You can see Teclis is going to come in right into the heart of all these infantry units, which is a little bit of a mistake. You can see that, yeah, he has hardly any armor. He's taking a lot of hits. The Death Hag is going to come in, get a nice juicy hit into the back of him. And yeah, we're just staying like a Death Star. You can see my Bleak Swords are going to stop these Spearmen. And yeah, we're just trying to deal with these Dragon Princes. We need to get them where destroyed, because once we do, his Frostheart Phoenix will have to land. You can see he is going to land, trying to do some damage to my Supreme Sorceress, who is going to get an Enfeebling Foe on him. But yeah, I'm just trying to blend into my troops. You can see my Death Hag is hitting him. And yeah, keep in mind the Death Hag does lower their melee attack by 6, guys. So, we're doing pretty good. You can see the Bolt Fiends will be able to start shooting here. They are currently obstructed. But yeah, we're just trying to focus down the Dragon Princes. Now my opponent does get another, looks like, regrowth onto these guys, but regrowth does not bring back the model count. It just raises your health. It's not like the vampire spell. You can see the Supreme Sorceress is just chasing away these chariots, and we're just trying to be really patient, guys. I'm trying to fight on every different front here. Whenever he tries to get a charge in, we're just getting a charge of our own. We're just doing everything we can, trying to keep ourselves together. We don't want to get separated. And yeah, you can see, guys, Bounce of Power is just strongly just creeping more and more into my favor, especially with these Bolt Fiends who are shooting into these Dragon Princes. And once he loses them, he's going to be in some really bad shape. You can see the Supreme Sorceress is going to get into a fight with Teclis. And yeah, she's no pushover, especially with the support of the Bleak Swords, and it's just really helping us. Now, he does kind of get a Frostheart Phoenix charge. My troops are here a little bit on the right. He's being really, really good about that, but yeah, it's just a matter of time. You can see we are going to break these Dragon Princes. They're getting ready to rout, and I have 2 units of Harpies. Just going to slow it down for a second. 2 units of Harpies that have dealt with the Sisters of Avalorn, and I'm going to be able to send them down here and hit Teclis and the chariots, which will stop them from cycle charging me. So now it's just a matter of time. You can see he is going to pretty much send all his troopers in for one last little charge here. Death Hag is going to come in and do a lot of damage, and you can see the Supreme Sorceress is still doing about half health. The Blades of the Blood Queen, you can see, are getting the Fury of Cain, which is going to make them do a lot more melee attack. We're going to break this chariot. These 3 Dragon Princes are going to come in, but the Bleak Swords are going to stop them. The Supreme Sorceress is going to come in as well. And you can see the Bolt Fiends are just shooting into the Frostheart Phoenix. And yeah, we're just chasing him. Fighting this could be kind of annoying. It's very frustrating, but yeah, my opponent's being really competitive. It's what I would do. You just have to be patient, guys. Don't let him force a mistake out of you. You can see we're just trying to keep this Frostheart Phoenix from getting into the air. Teclis is not going to be able to, one-on-one him, especially with the support of my infantry troops. Trying to keep everybody close together. You can see the Bolt Fiends are just being a real nuisance to my opponent. We're going to be able to break those guys, and the Harpies are almost here. And once the Harpies get here, we're going to be able to shut down this kind of skirmish play. You see, I do have a chariot over there in reserve if I do need. And yeah, the Death Hag is just going to start just go-karting the Frostheart Phoenix out of the equation here. You can see my units are still in relatively good health. We're grouping together. The Bolt Fiends should be able to start firing again. And yeah, that's going to be the final nail in the coffin. You can see, so we're going to get a nice volley in. The Death Hag is doing a lot of health. We have him down to about a quarter of his health. The remaining of my troops are going to come in. Harpies are about ready to reinforce. These Bleak Swords are going to stop those Dragon Princes, and my opponent's just going to say good game. So Very good game to Luca. That was a very close game. Let's go ahead and look at the in-screen breakdown and talk about some of the keys for my success. Oops, what am I doing? So yeah, guys, keys for success. The Harpies. The backline pressure, being able to shut down his Sisters of Avalorn, that was a huge benefit for me. He paid, what, $1,100 for each of these, so that was a lot of value. Another really big key for my success was these Dark Riders. I mean, yeah, 0 kills, but what they did is they took the charge of these Dragon Princes and the Fireborn, which allowed my Cold Wind Knights to keep them busy while my other units came in to assist, because remember, they were on the other side of the map, so I had to buy some time to get those troops. Once we did, yeah, the ranged units from the Bolt Fiends and the Repeater Crossbows, he was taking this guaranteed damage. He was getting overwatched for my ranged units, even though my Cav units were a little inferior, especially with the Enfeebling Foe. He didn't really have an answer. I mean, High Elves don't have Harpies. They don't have a cheap unit that can shut down ranged units like the Dark Elves do. That's one of our advantages as a Druchii player. The Death Hag was definitely a anchor unit. My opponent, I mean, what's the only reliable thing that he could really shut it down with? The Frostheart Phoenix and the Fireborn, but, you know, we were able to focus them down. The Manticore summons came in handy. We were able to stop his chariots from cycle charging, through our lines. And, yeah, the chariot did really good, too. I mean, like, all these units really did was just keep his cavalry in place. Allowed me to shoot it and to regroup my units. And lastly, the last key for my success was staying in a Death Star. You know, once it came to that last part of the battle, when my opponent was just trying to get the cycle charges, hitting me from every angle, you know, it would be easy to kind of split your forces, chase after each one, but then you're going to get picked apart. He would come in, he would snipe my Lord, then he would take out my Death Hag. Like, if you keep them all grouped together like you saw, then he's, you know, every time he comes in, he's going to take damage, and when you have a lead like that, you know, you're just going to win through attrition. So, and as for Luca, this was a really cool build. He showed you know how to play it. He's a very good high elf build. So, good game, my friend. And yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed that one. So, on the next video, I'll show you guys our game 2. I'll show you the Norska versus Empire game that we did after this. So, all right, guys, hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye now.